Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day, first view of the day as well. For those of you watching this on YouTube, if you have not done so already, please sign up for our Locked On Cougars Insider Group. It's a great way to get inside intel on the BYU football program, basketball program, and everything else I've got for you guys in a text message. Think about that. It does not get much easier than not having to go comb through a message board or log into a website to get the inside intel that you crave. Sign up with Locked On Cougars, our insider group, using the link in the show notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it. You get a 14-day free trial to see if it's the right option for you, and just $5 a month afterwards as my phone starts buzzing here on my desk in my studio. But sign up today and join us on our Locked On Cougars Insider Group. Please do so. We're having a lot of fun over there. All right, before we go on today's show, let's talk about a major announcement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The First Presidency of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has announced they intend to build a medical school at BYU. Folks, I cannot express to you how big of a deal this is to consider. There have been rumors of this for years that were debunked by multiple people about BYU won't ever build a medical school. Well, here's the deal. I knew a former staff member / deans of BYU's law school that I grew up down the street from, quite literally, who talked about how much of a miracle it was that BYU established a law school at Brigham Young University and how it has become an international powerhouse for legal minds. They brought in a lot of people to BYU law that a lot of people thought would never consider coming to BYU. I think a similar circumstance could play out here for BYU when it comes to this medical school. Now, this is an interesting conversation because the deal is that there already is a University of Utah medical school up there that's been around for over 100 years. I think it's 120 years now for the UU Medical School. But the thing about it is Taylor Randall from the University of Utah announced that they will work in concert with BYU and obviously the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and working as a partner alongside BYU. I also think that BYU and their medical school, according to the report, from BYU, it's going to do something different than other medical schools. It is going to be focused on teaching with research in areas of strategic importance to the church. In time, it will draw students from within and outside the United States, the church said in their statement. Plans for the medical school are underway and specific target dates will be announced as they are set. Now, the interesting part about this is they are not going to create their own medical or hospital system with this medical school. This is a medical school that is going to focus on strategic research goals to help the aims of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, both stateside and more importantly, internationally. Remember, this is a global church. For those of you who may not be familiar with the LDS faith, it has got millions of members. More members of the church live outside the United States of America than live inside the United States. It is a global entity that absolutely has unique challenges, especially when it comes to the health, safety, and the overall well-being of its members worldwide. And it's not just limited, by the way, to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is a medical school that is going to be a force for good on the international scene. They're going to bring in great minds to build this school from the ground up. And I'll say this. I think we have kind of learned maybe with this announcement, and it's not official because they didn't put it in the announcement, that I think that the medical campus, if you're going to build one, I think that Provo High campus is probably where it's going to go, because I just frankly don't see another spot on BYU's campus that you're going to be able to build an entire medical facility and medical school that has the adequate size, land, you know what I'm talking about, just the overall parameters it needs. The interesting part about this is, could this be a big part of potential realignment down the road for BYU when it comes to sports? There's a lot of people out there who believe that Utah has an inside edge of potentially joining the Big Ten at some point down the road because of what Utah has in its medical campus and its overall just prowess in the medical community. Could Brigham Young University's new medical school give BYU a leg up in potential realignment down the line? I'm not saying it's absolutely going to give them a leg up, but absolutely could play a role for BYU. I really think that this is a big move by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to invest what will probably be in the billions of dollars in the end to build this thing from the ground up. And if it follows the same kind of trajectory that BYU's law school has had, you're going to see it become a force for good and, more importantly, just an internationally renowned institution in a relatively short time. It took a minute for BYU law to kind of gain traction, but with the pull of BYU, with the international reach of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints out there, there's no reason to think that BYU's new medical school cannot do what it aims to do. But if I'm Shane Reese, if I'm Tom Holmoe, I'm anybody in BYU athletic administration that has aspirations of being part of the next iteration of conference realignment, this could be a major factor for BYU to kind of lean on when it comes to their resume, looking like a better candidate when it comes to potential conference realignment. I'm not saying that BYU is going to try and jump to the Big Ten. In fact, I think BYU is very content and more than happy to remain members of the Big 12 Conference. But if things move, and there are some out there who believe that they're going to move very quickly in the not too distant future, and BYU is forced to kind of, I guess, gussy itself up and sell itself for what it's worth to these other conferences or whatever the new entities might be in college athletics, well, you could do a lot worse than having a medical school in your back pocket to add to that resume. BYU's done a really good job with law, with business in terms of its postgraduate studies. If BYU ever has aspirations of getting AAU status, it's an elite academic reputation / distinction that a lot of Big Ten and Pac-12 schools have carried for years, and it was something that they kind of thumbed their nose at. Speaking of the Pac-12 about BYU, it's not a research institution. Well, guess what? You had a medical school. BYU absolutely is a research institution. You can take that and shove it up your tailpipe for all I care. But I really look at this as a major boon for BYU and by extension, BYU athletics. It's a really cool thing. It's really cool to see the church stepping up and investing a lot of money in another facet, which will enhance the education of its students, both here in Utah, the United States of America, and more importantly, literally worldwide, because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has an establishment in 180 plus countries worldwide. I think they just recently announced earlier this week that the Republic of Azerbaijan has formally recognized the church as an entity in that country. The church is doing a lot of good things on the humanitarian front. And if you can add to that by helping train the next crop of medical doctors that can go out into the world and, as BYU's motto says, go out and be a force for good, hey, I'm all for it. And if it can also help benefit BYU athletics by maybe ending up as one of the haves versus being a have-not once again, if another round of conference realignment necessitates that, I am all on board, and I will be rooting on BYU Medical School, whatever they name it. Maybe it's the Russell M. Nelson Medical School, obviously to pay honor to our beloved prophet, Russell M. Nelson, who is a renowned worldwide renowned heart surgeon. So cool times to watch that unfolding at BYU, and we'll see where it ultimately ends up. But something to obviously pay attention to if you're a BYU fan in general, just sports, the university. It's a big deal to see that coming and that announcement being made yesterday.